In this video, we're going to cover two very important topics where I really want you to get into feeling your business coming to life. Really go deep in that feeling side. And those two things are the customer archetype or persona. So I want you to feel what that customer looks like, right? Specifically, who is that customer that we're trying to get to? And then the second thing that we'll talk about is the MVP, which is the minimum viable product, and really get a feeling of your product and what stages your product or service are going to go through, starting with the minimum viable product, which will be sort of your first release in terms of your product design. Okay, so before we jump in, let's just go back. How are things going? So hopefully you've been able to now break into small groups and actually discuss, and hopefully you're starting to see that, hey, this is a kind of a fun process. You know, make sure that when you get in there, at least the group that I had last week, everyone participated, and they had such a great time participating. And so even when you're not the one presenting and other people are presenting, feel free to chime in. You've got a different network than everyone else does. You've got great ideas, and plus it expands your mind and makes you think in different variations, which absolutely will help you in your own business. Okay? Hopefully you've taken a shot at the business model canvas and starting to now get a little bit comfortable with the customer discovery process of actually going out there and talking to potential customers. Okay? So the way the process, let's step back and talk about, the process once again. Boom, Bill has a bright idea. So how do we develop that superpower? Bill has that bright idea, starts that customer discovery process, right? Talking to customers, potential customers, vendors, partners, suppliers, and really trying to define who that target customer is and what value do I bring to them? What problem am I solving, or what can they gain by using my product or service, okay? And then last week we covered, if we're feeling pretty good about some of this, how big is that market, right? Why does market size matter? So going after a pretty nice size market means that we can have a sustainable business. And then who else is doing this? And understanding from a competitive standpoint why our solution is better and the specific target segment will buy our product over the competition. So this week, now what we're saying is that, okay, now that we're here, what is the product that we're going to release? What is the minimum viable product? What's the first release that has a minimum set of features that we can see if the actual market's going to buy into what we're talking about, our product or service? We're going to go through a minimum viable product. And the other is let's get deep. Let's dive deep into who that customer is that we're trying to get to. You might have a couple customer segments, but so you're going to define these personas. But the whole idea is that let's bring this to life. Let's identify people. Let's feel who they are. So before we start putting marketing plans, who are they? Where do they buy? What influences them? How old are they? All those kind of things that really matter to your business. Let's define that inside of our customer persona and archetype. Okay? So to start, on the business model canvas, these are the two boxes that we talked about that we're going to focus on, which is the customer segments, who is that customer, and then what value are we bringing to them. So in this week's episode, what we're really talking about is inside there. Let's go dive a little bit deeper, and then inside the customers, what are the pains that they have? What are the gains that they're looking for? What jobs do they do? Inside the value prop, how can we help them gain more? How can we alleviate some of the pain? But inside of those, there's two different concepts in there that we're going to talk about. One is the minimum viable product. That's in the middle of our value prop. So what is our product or service going to be? And then on the other side, who specifically? What are the demographics, psychographics, buying behaviors? Who is that customer that we're actually selling to, that target customer or multiple target customers? Okay? So those are the two that we're going to dive into today. So we'll start with the minimum viable product. So what is a minimum viable product, right? So, or what is your minimum viable product? So what I want you to think about with a minimum viable product is what are the minimum set of features or service, right, or services that you can offer that basically alleviates a problem that they would buy your product, okay? And I think it's best told through some stories, but let's start with this one. Let's say Bill wants to start a donut shop. And I have this beautiful vision of having blueberry donuts, and I'm going to have some weird flavor like guacamole donuts, and I'm going to have, bacon and maple donuts. So I have I have a vision for this beautiful donut shop, and then I want a physical space and all that. But before I launch that, you know what I should do? I should probably figure out how to create one donut, maybe a simple glazed donut that is phenomenal, right? I can have my customers try it out. If people are buying my donut and said, this is the best donut I've ever had, can you see how then version 2, when I make the blueberry one, I know it's going to be successful. And from there, we continue to build upon it and say, now I have enough customers, so then I can open up my own shop because I know I'll have enough customers to pay for my rent and all those kind of things. But it all starts with having a minimum viable product, okay? And so that's what we're going to define. Each of yours is going to be different based on, whether you have a product or a service. What is that minimum viable product? The minimum set of products or services that still would add value to the customer, that they would buy from you, that you're actually testing out your value proposition. And then you can add more things on it as it goes forward. So just like, and we'll give you some examples of large companies that went through this process so that you can see. So Facebook. Everyone knows about Facebook, but did you know that this is actually Facebook's first version. That was their minimum viable product. It was called The Facebook. It didn't have a lot of functionality, but it connected up people that actually had .edu accounts in there, and that was their first version, right? They knew they wanted to do a lot of different things. They had, visions for all kinds of things, but they had to create something to see if people would actually join up and utilize their product, okay? Groupon. You guys know Groupon. They give out certain deals. You push the button, and then you get this thing back that basically is a coupon that saves you money at wherever. You can bring it to a local establishment and say, let's say, I don't know, what the last one I bought was actually from go-kart racing. And so you hit the button, and then basically you pay the money, and it gives you 2 free, let's say, or I paid for 2 for the price of 1 of go-kart racing, right? When they created their initial version, they didn't have any automation in the back. Essentially, you pushed yes, buy, because they created a simple website, and then someone else behind the scenes and created it and emailed you the thing. So instead of creating the entire system, they wanted to see if people would actually even do it. If they said they would do it and they could get vendors to actually give deals, then they were going to automate everything. But they wanted to actually see if they could get customers first. That was their MVP, right? Airbnb. It started off with some actually folks over in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there was a conference coming up, and they said, you know what, it would be, it's kind of pricey to stay out here. What if we allowed people to stay in our place, right? Would they actually rent that out? And probably you guys know that the rest is history. They actually did. They filled it up. They did well. And then they ended up doing that more on a regular basis, got other people involved, and that was really the start of Airbnb. But the whole idea is, I've got this concept. Would it really work? Would people do it? Let's try it and see. And once people did, then they tried a little bit bigger. They tried some more properties, and now it's a worldwide phenomena, right? But it started with an MVP, a minimum viable product, just to prove their proposition out. Amazon, you guys know all about Amazon, but Amazon's story was basically, this is the first version of Amazon. Not quite the visual representation that we see of Amazon now, and they only sold books. And the whole idea is, would people actually buy books online or not? Let's have them on there and see if people utilize it before we invest too much in terms of building it all out, right? So I'm hoping you get the feel of it. Here's an interesting one. This is a fun one. Zappos, they're going, hey, would people actually buy shoes online, right? But this was their minimum viable product. Would they actually do that online? Now they're the largest online, I think, sneaker reseller in the world. So, but their first version was they would actually put sneakers on there. They wouldn't even have inventory, right? People would actually say, yes, I'll buy that. Then they ran over to the store, bought them, and then basically shipped them out. So they might have even lost money on some of the initial ones, but what they're really testing out is, were people willing to buy shoes online? And you have to remember, during that time, it was like, well, you can't try it on, right? So people were saying, oh, people aren't going to buy that stuff online because you can't try it on. So why would anyone come online and buy it? So, but they're sitting and go, man, you know what? If he had more selection, convenience at the home, knew what shoe size, and had the ability to return it, I think people would buy it. But let's try it out. Let's create a website, put out some product, somebody orders it, we run to the store, we buy them, we get it back, ship it, lose a little bit of money, but prove that thing would work, right? And then you could figure out what inventory to purchase, which ones are the popular items, what's going to go online, understand your customers better, and go forward. Okay? Dropbox, you've heard these like cloud systems. What they wanted to do was, they thought people would store files and things like that in the cloud, right? But they didn't know people would really do it or not. So what they did was they initially created a video, and they said, if you're interested, please sign up. When we're ready to launch, we'll do it. And then they had a lot of people actually sign up for their product before they launched it. That gave them the confidence to go ahead and build that product. So basically testing the waters out before they actually created the full-fledged product. And one of the ones that you probably know all too well is the iPhone, right? The first iPhone had texting, but you couldn't text pictures. Did you guys know that? It was only text, right? And you know that thing that we do where we sort of highlight something and we say copy and then we paste it somewhere? Didn't have that functionality, right? You know how you look in your address book and you start typing the first things and then a list of them come up in terms of who it could be? Like here are my A's, that start with these. That didn't have that function. Now, Apple knew about all these different functions that they wanted to have, but the problem is that if they built every feature that they thought about, they would never launch the iPhone, or they would basically, it would take them 5 additional years to go launch the iPhone as opposed to launching it now. And so their whole thing was, can we provide a minimum set? They need a calendar, they need to have email, they need to be able to browse the web, and then they need to text. But how can I create these basic features and see if people would even carry one of these kind of devices and actually use this device, right? Once they found out that people love this thing, and they wanted more, so then Release 2 comes out with some of the features that customers were asking for. Then customers would want more, or they would come out with some innovations. Version 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's all history. But the first version, once again, they knew about the other functions they wanted, but they needed to say, just with these features, could we sell it? And could it prove that there is market for this, right? And then can we grow it from there? That's the minimum viable product, okay? So for you, for next week, I want you to think about your minimum viable product. What is that basic set of features, right? Or basic set of services that you're going to offer that proves that your value proposition is worthwhile and you can take it to market, right? You can have other visions in terms of Release 2, Release 3, Release 4, but what is that? Where are you going to start? I mean, think of it that way. Here's my overall vision, but I have to start somewhere. What is it that I'm going to start? And this piece that we start with has to have enough value that people are going to buy it. And once they buy it, then you can expand it. I can add more services to it. I can add more products to it, right? I can add more features to it. I can add whatever to it. But the key is, what's that initial set that I want to go to market with? So think about yours and see what you want to do in terms of your MVP. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do for next week. The second one is customer persona or archetype. Okay. So what I want you to think about there is, who is that customer? Now, I also, just the one word, customers are everyone whom you deliver value, right? It's not just the people that you give money to. So what do I mean by that? I mean, it's probably best illustrated with like nonprofits. Nonprofits, and a lot of times, what we have to do is get money from a foundation or from the government, right? So they're a customer because they're looking for something, and then I'm saying I can deliver on this promise that you're trying to do, right? So that's one customer. But the money that I typically get from them is utilized to go help a different group. This is the group that I'm here to lift, or I'm here to train, or I'm here to do whatever with, right? And so they're both customers. They both have different needs. So just realize that in your business it's going to be unique, but who is that target customer that you're going to be going after, okay? So just one word of caution, I would say companies are not customers, right? And what I mean by that is that, let's say, I don't know, I invented something. Let's say I invented a new type of plastic, right? And this plastic is biodegradable, actually keeps your, let's say, soda cold and some of those kind of things. So it's fantastic, right? Who do I sell to? Do I sell to Coca-Cola? Initially, you might say yes, but what do I walk in the front door and I said, hey, Coca-Cola, I've got this fantastic invention. No, you actually sell to humans, people inside of those companies. So your objective is to figure out who are the actual buyers inside of those companies, okay? So it could be the R&D person in Coca-Cola. It could be the product manager. It could be whoever does the supply chain. I'm not sure. But that's what we've got to figure out. Why does that matter? Because whoever is the buyer, whoever is going to be looking at it, and it could be a couple. Maybe it's the R&D people and the supply person that sort of work together in terms of, at Pepsi, that actually figure that out, right? So I got to figure out what they care about, right? What does the supply person care about? Probably, can I produce enough of this material in order for them to actually put it into Pepsi products, right? And then what's the R&D person look like? They want to test the material. They want to see how to utilize it. They want to make sure that there's no toxins or poisons in there. They probably want to know that it lasts, that it has shelf life, blah, 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 right? So those are what you're trying to advise. So companies, don't view them as customers. Look at the people inside of those companies, specific people that look to buy your product, right? That are going to bring your product in as sort of the customers, okay? Because that's a common mistake that people make. They go, oh, Pepsi would love this. That's great that someone inside Pepsi would, but if you don't know who, then you're not going to be able to sell it. If you don't know who's going to buy it, you don't know what they like or what they're looking for. So you don't even know how to test your product before you go out there and sell it. What you're trying to do is get information from them, answer all the questions. By the time you go in there, then you sort of pave the way to actually sell into a Pepsi or a Coke or Dr. Pepper in this case. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about persona archetype. So what I want you to do here is it's a representation of your target customer. It could be more than one. You could have multiple target customers. But the reason, I want you to make it so that we can sort of feel the person. Give them a name, talk about who they are so that, all of us, when we're listening to them, we can sit there and say, hey, I know that person. I know a person just like that person, right? And the reason we do that is it forces us, so when we design our business model, we start designing our marketing, we're designing it towards people, actual people that are going to buy, right? We want to have that feeling when we're doing it, as opposed to just some generic numbers like, oh, I'm going to sell to the 18 and 34 group, right? That's great. We all understand it from a logical standpoint. But when you say this is the group, this, meet Joan, meet, Alfred, whoever that is, and this is what they like. This is how they're influenced. This is about how much money you make, that kind of stuff. Now you start targeting and you can sort of feel that customer. Then when you put the marketing plans together, you put your business model together, you can sort of see how it works a lot better. So let's go through some examples on how that could work, right? But before we do that, I want you to know that there are different roles that different people take in here. Some people are going to be users of your product, but maybe they're not the ones that are buying it, right? There are decision makers. And then, even then, there might be people who influence it. So depending on your product, you might have some of these, all of these, or just maybe one. Maybe if you're selling to a consumer, they're probably the decision maker and the user of the product, right? But who influences them to buy, right? Do they go look at reports online to see if anyone recommends it? I just bought, let's say, tires for my wife's car, right? And so I was looking on there and said, I don't know. I knew where I was going to go. I went to a couple places that I would shop for, right? And then I started looking at, different kind of things and said, oh, well, I wonder if this tire is any good in the snow. So I'm looking for other people who've recommended it. I went to different websites that are sort of influencing those, right? I was a decision maker and the user, or my wife and I were both a decision maker and users. But the key is we're looking at different types of things. So those are the kinds of things that you look at when you're looking at your customer. The one thing that we don't a lot of times talk about is also think about the saboteurs. We're not going to define them, at least for, not on an assignment basis, but a saboteur is somebody who might be potentially trying to sabotage what you're trying to accomplish, right? And typically those are, however they do the business today. So let's go back to my example of the plastic, right? Who would be the saboteurs? Whoever's providing them the plastic today to, let's say, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, they're going to be a saboteur. They're the ones that are going to be talking to the R&D person and the supply person and saying, hey, you know what? That material hasn't been tested. Hey, I heard that material is very poisonous, and after 6 months, it's going to be horrible and there's going to be a lot of lawsuits. Can you see that? And it's not that they have the facts right. What they're doing is they're trying to preserve their business. So realize that typically when we create something and we're trying to display somebody because we have a better product, right, they're going to come back with some negativity. So just be aware that's going to happen, okay? So that's called a saboteur, okay? So what do I want you to do around persona archetype? Think about who are they? Not all of these things are going to be important to your business necessarily, so you got to figure out what are the most important attributes. For some of you, it may be the position that they hold, what title they have, how old they are, right? Gender, what role they have, some of those kind of things. Could be, how do they buy? Do they have a large discretionary budget, or are they truly budget shoppers? Are they really frugal, or are they looking for value? What does value you mean to them, right? What matters most to them? How they look, how that thing looks, how does it perform, efficiency, who influences them, right? Is it general trends that are online? Are there specific influencers? Are there recommenders of some of these? So think about all those things, and you're trying to define what this person looks like, feels like, buys like. You're trying to almost like bring them to life, right? And sometimes it's helpful if you are stuck, draw a day in the life of the customer. So what are they doing? And then when do they actually interact with whatever your product or service is going to look like? For some, that doesn't make sense. But for some of you, that could actually give you a lot of inspiration in terms of that. So here's some examples. This is where rubber hits the road, and you'll start seeing what I'm talking about, okay? So meet Justin Payne. He's a dentist, right? He's a very technology-oriented dentist, 29 years old, single male, makes 120K, so does pretty well, lives down, midtown, high rise, likes to travel, reads tech logs, loves gadgets. So he likes to fiddle with tech, and he likes to be the first on the block with the technology and all that. So let's say I'm selling something. Let's say I'm selling a new dental thing. I've got it approved through the whoever I need to get approved through. And what it is let's say I created a painless or shot-free way to actually do fillings, right? But it's a new technology. It uses a different material. You don't have to numb yourself. I can basically do it somehow, and it automatically works, right, in this way, okay? But it's a new tech. Okay, so who am I looking to buy my product? I'm looking for a Justin, somebody who's technology oriented, probably on the younger side, does well, right? But loves technology, wants to be the first. He distinguishes his practice. His customers come to him because he's on the latest trends of everything, right? He's got the tech stuff. And what he's going to do is say, because I'm the tech person, I'm the first to offer painless fillings in my community. Can you feel, Justin? That's what I'm selling to, right? Now, there's another persona that after the Justins of the world buy, then there's the ones that say, I'm kind of skeptical a little bit about that technology, but man, Justin's making it work. I need to get one now, right? And then there's others that we'll talk about that are even further back, okay? But this is Justin. Can you feel that? That's what I mean by feeling. You sort of know a Justin. You can feel a Justin. Maybe you go to a dentist that's like Justin. Maybe you go to one that's a different kind of person, right? But can you see the persona? That's what we're trying to define. Why? Because if you look at it, let's say I do want to launch this product. How do I get to Justin? Well, I probably need to make sure that if he's reading tech blogs, what tech blogs is he reading, right? What conferences does he go to? How do I make sure the Justins of the world are hearing about my product, right? How do I reach out to them? Maybe I'm going to conferences. I don't want to talk to everybody at a conference, but I want to talk to every technology-oriented dentist there is and see if they're actually a Justin, right, and want to buy my product, okay? Let's do some other examples. Here's Linda. So Linda is looking for someone to pet sit, right? She does well. She makes good enough money. She loves her pets, but doesn't like putting them in those pet hotels, right? She looks like she has 2 dachshunds there. And so she loves her pets and doesn't mind spending extra to have someone come to her house and actually watch the pet, right? So can you feel that? It's not something that someone who really loves their pet. So if I'm selling a pet service, right, a pet sitting service where I come to your home, now it costs more, but you take extra special care, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone that probably has pets, probably maybe not has children in there, but maybe these are her sort of, furry kids at home, right? These are her fur babies, as some people call them, okay? That has enough disposable income to say, yes, I would feel much better if you just had my dogs at home. They would feel much better. They could utilize our yard. You guys come in here. I need them fed at this time and this time. Let them out, whatever they need to do, okay? Can you feel that? That's what you're trying to do. So it's not just any customer that has a dog. It's, I'm looking for the Lindas of the world, right? Another one. So since we talked about digital diapers at our last session, so I want you to meet John, Mary, and Susan, okay? They're working professionals who have a parent in a nursing home, okay? These guys are doing pretty well, so they're working professionals, do well in life, but they also want what's best for their parents, right? And so basically they lead busy lives, but they still want to make sure that they, they visit their parent regularly, want what's best for them. Can you feel that? It's not just anybody, but I'm looking for how do I find these younger, upwardly mobile people that have a parent that's in a nursing home, because those are the ones that, whether it works or not, they're going to buy the digital diaper. Because if that really does what it says, it actually can save my mom or give some extra years to my mom's life or better quality of living, sign me up, right? That's what I want. So I'm trying to, here in this case, I'm looking for the John, Mary, and Susans of the world, okay? Another example. Let's say it's the heated pavement one, right? So I'm looking for a home builder, because remember, I'm going after new homes because I'm putting in that driveway where you flip the switch and it melts the snow away, right? So meet Victoria and Chris. So Victoria owns a home building company. She builds about 100 homes a year. Now she feels that she has to bring the best of everything to compete in the market, right? I mean, for different reasons. People look at her as not the traditional home builder, but because of that, she's got to go above and beyond in everything. So I'm going to come to her and say, look, if you really want to go above and beyond with your customers, you have to offer heated pavements. This is the latest and greatest, and it puts you on that leading edge. Victoria's in, right? Meet Chris, right? This is actually my home builder. So he won, that's his little plaque for Home Builder of the Year. But he's like that. He's a very innovative, likes to have the latest and greatest, understands it, knows how it works. Actually, I think in the early part of his career, he was a concrete person. So he would love this solution, right? Wants to be first in the market. Can you feel it? So it's not every home builder. And it probably needs to be, what I'm looking for, home builders are probably in that 100, maybe from 50 to 150 range. So they're not ginormous, right? They're not just producing homes like this, but they're not doing just onesies and twosies. So I get enough volume, but they care about their customers. They can still do extremely good customer service to them and still provide them these latest and greatest technologies. That's the kind of customer I'm looking for. That's my customer persona. Okay? So I hope that's making sense. Each of yours will be different, okay? Because I don't know, every one of your customers are different. So think about what are the most relevant and important characteristics, right? And so when you're sharing that with us, I want to feel them. I want to basically sit there and say, hey, I know someone that's just like that, right? Oh, wait a minute. I know so-and-so. That is exactly a Justin, or that's a, Victoria. You got it? So that's what we're trying to figure out on the archetype, okay? So here's a very interesting thing. So we were looking at different archetypes. I don't know if you've heard of this thing called the product adoption curve. So what we're typically looking for is the people that are innovators and early adopters. These are the first people that are going to buy your product or service, right? So when we talked about Justin, the dentist, right? He's an innovator. He wants to be the first to have that technology, right? So if I have a brand new technology in the dentist world, right? That's the kind of people that I want first. Right? Those are what we're looking for as innovators. Now, when I'm doing customer interviews, I might find other people that maybe they're late majority people, right? And so we'll talk about each of these, but you're trying to classify who they are because when I'm in sales mode, I want to hit up these first, then these, then these, then these, and then maybe never these, okay? And so the whole idea is innovators are the ones that jump on first. They want to be the first on the block to have it, and then they're the ones that buy. The early adopters basically are looking and saying, Justin's doing pretty well with it. I'm in. Count me in. I wanted to be in there, but I wasn't sure. But if Justin's doing it, I'm going to do it, right? So they're fast followers, right? Because they're going to jump into the trend. They don't want to be first, but they don't mind being second or third, right? And then they're going to jump in the trend and take advantage of it. Then there's this what they call early majority. These guys are skeptical, saying, I don't know, is this a fad? Is it real? Does it really work? But when these guys start being successful doing what they're doing, and they're getting some good press around it, their customers are very satisfied, then this group says, okay, you know what? I should use this. I need to go into that. That's that early majority, right? And then you got these other ones that are sort of the late majority. These are the skeptics. They're the ones that are sitting there going, you know what? I've seen new stuff come and go. I don't think I'm going to do this, right? And they'll wait until what happens? Until they start losing customers to some of these people because basically they're going, hey, you don't offer this pain-free technology, I'm going to someone else. And then they're going to sit there and say, you know what? I don't want to lose all my customers, so therefore I probably need to go ahead and adopt that technology. So that's sort of your late majority. And then there's a set of people, right, what we call laggards in this case, that, I've been doing dentistry for 40 years and I've never had to do any of that. They're using the old equipment, the old technology, doing it the old way, and they have great clientele. These people are never going to adopt the new technology, right? And so therefore, if I'm selling, I don't even focus on these. If they're one of these, I basically say, that's fine. They have their own way of doing things. That's great. They're not a potential customer of mine, okay? Now, one thing I will tell you, resist sort of human nature when it comes to some of that. Because what happens is that when we're actually selling something that's amazing, we may get some negative sort of feedback from some of these laggards, right? And human nature makes it so that, hey, I want to convince him that he needs to use it, right? Don't. Right? They're not going to convert. They're not going to buy your product. Focus on the Justins of the world that are raising their hand saying, I want your product, right? Try to get the early adopters and the innovators on first, right? Then you'll start naturally pulling in that early majority, and then you start pulling some skeptics, right? That's great, but don't worry about the laggards, right? So that's the product adoption curve. Almost all products, when they're released, that's what they do. So what we're trying to do at this beginning stage, whenever you come up with an idea, is identify who those innovators and early adopters are. Those are the ones that we're going to sell to first, okay? What are the issues that they have? How do we define who they are? That's that persona, okay? So as you do this, as you're doing the customer discovery and you're talking to these people, put that down in the customer category side. Do you think they're an innovator or an early adopter? Or are they one of the early majority or late majority? Or are they a laggard, right? So just keep a track of that when you're talking to them. It's like, no, this person was definitely a Justin. He's an innovator, early adopter. When I'm ready to go to market with my product or service, they're going to be one of the first people I call because I know that they're going to want to use my product, right? That's what we're doing there. So for next week, this is what you need to pull together, okay? So I want you to continue your customer discovery. Go out there and talk to potential customers, potential suppliers, vendors, but really focus on that potential customer side and just write down notes that you learned. What insights did you get from those different conversations, right? You'll see that you get all these kind of different insights the more people you talk to. Then pull together your minimum viable product. Once again, remember Bill wanted to create a donut shop, all kinds of different flavors, but my MVP is to create a donut that I can sell. And if I start selling it, maybe I change the formula somewhere or the ingredients, I change the recipe until I perfect the one that everyone says, this is the best donut I've ever had. But can you see, once I've got the best donut I've ever had, can you see how I put a blueberry frosting in it or maybe mixing, guacamole like I said, or maybe bacon and maple syrup, whatever it is, if I have that base foundation, man, I have the formula for success all around the donut shop. So come up and define what your minimum viable product is. If it helps, you can even define, version 1, version 2, version 3, if that helps you put it in perspective, right? And saying, here's some important things, but this is what I need to start off first, and I think a customer will buy that, right? So develop what you believe is your minimum viable product, and then come up and define your customer archetype. Tell us who your Justin is. What's that look like, right? And so here's some different things from the presentation and from the slide deck. Who are they? Maybe demographics matter. Maybe age range matters, right? Maybe their buying characteristic matter. Each of your personas is going to be different from each other, but define who you believe your customer persona, that target customer persona and archetype is. So in conclusion, definitely continue with customer discovery. I want you to be learning by talking to these people, okay? And so for this week, once again, work on that feeling. Lean into that feeling, right? Feel your product with that MVP. Man, I can feel that first version and the second version and that third version. I want you to feel your product. And the other one is I want you to see that customer. I want you to be able to see that customer, visualize that customer, not just as in here are the age ranges, here are some of these, but I want you to feel it. I want you to sit down there, and when I see a picture of it, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly who you're speaking about, right? That's what we want inside of your customer persona, okay? And then complete week 3 in your success journal, which are those pieces, and we'll see you at our session